The importance of a brooder, what you need to know, and how to set it up. Stay tuned for this video. Hi YouTube, this is Mama Homestead with Lee Family Homestead. Today we're doing a video on our family brooder, our chicken brooder, and there's a couple things that I feel is important for you to know before you get your chicks, what they're going to need and how you're going to be able to raise them in a healthy environment. This is our brooder. It is a 6 foot by 5 foot brooder, which is roughly 30 square feet. And that's important to know the square footage of your brooder. I will get to that here in a minute. Basically, what you want in your brooder is you want to make sure that your side walls are at least at a minimum 12 inches. We did ours 2 feet so that our chickens don't get out. Number one is you want to make sure that you purchase a heat lamp for your brooder. The heat lamp is going to require a 250 watt bulb, and you want to make sure that it is poultry specific. And that's important because you don't want just a regular 250 watt bulb in the event that it gets too hot for your chickens, or the bulbs can even shatter if they're left on too long. So you want to make sure it's a 250 watt poultry bulb. We went with the red bulb, and there's multiple reasons why you want to go with the red bulb. It helps the chicks sleep better. If they have the regular white bulb, it is going to hinder them sleeping. It's not very comfortable. I wouldn't want a big, huge, bright light shining in my face. So also it discourages pecking. So if they're establishing their pecking order, so you don't want to intensify that by having a big, bright white light. With the red light, it calms them down, prevents that pecking, and just makes happier chickens. Also, you want to make sure that with the heat lamp, that you adjust it as they get older. Starting out, a day-old chick needs roughly they need 95 degree heat. So you're going to want to position your lamp to where if you have a thermometer, put it under there and make sure it's 95 degrees. And then you want to up your lamp and bring your heat down by 5 degrees every week until you reach about 70 degrees. 70 degrees is ideal, but you want to make sure that when you are ready to take your chicks out to your coop, that your brooder temperature is roughly the same temperature as your environment. So if it's 75 degrees outside, you want your brooder to be at about 75 degrees. The next thing that's really important that you want for your brooder is your waterer and your feeder. Those are really important, and I'll show you what we have and give you some recommendations on that. A lid. I hear or see a lot of videos on YouTube that a lot of people don't have lids on their brooders, which is okay if it's in a safe environment and you don't have to worry about them getting out or predators getting in. That is fine. We have our brooder in our garage, so it is sheltered and it is away from prey. However, the chicks that we have tend to fly. So, well, what we consider flying for chickens. But they will attempt to get out of the brooder. So we just put this lid on there so we don't come out in the morning and have to search in our garage for a bunch of chicks. This is repurposed shelving, and I encourage anybody who is starting a homestead to recycle and repurpose anything that you can get your hands on. We weren't using the shelf, so what we did was we laid the slats or the shelves down on top of the brooder. And as you can see, let me take these off for you. We do have 2x4s that support the tops. Now you can take these off individually, which works out great because if you're trying to just change the water in your brooder, you don't have to take off this big 6 foot by 5 foot lid. Voila, the lid's gone. How's that for Hollywood time lapse? So recycle, recycle, recycle. Anything that you can get your hands on, keep it. Don't throw it away. It has a purpose. It can be used for something. We used a shelf for a lid. You can too. So I wanted to touch base on the feeder and the water. Those are two very important things that you need in your brooder. They have to have constant access to water, constant access to their feed. Our feeder is homemade and it works. It's not beautiful. I don't care. They love it. So it's basically just as you can see, a container that we had sitting around the house and then an old like Chinese food, I don't know, container. And it works. But you want to make sure that they have access to the food. With 10 chicks, it gets a little bit difficult because they're all trying to fight for space. So we went with the container because they have full access around the entire bowl. So the water that you have in your brooder is very important. When you get your chicks, they're gonna want to roost on top of their water. And that's not a good thing because what happens is they'll end up pooping in their water and that bacteria is very harmful for your chickens. So you want to make sure that your water, they're not able to roost on it and that it provides enough access for all of your chickens depending on how many you have. The waters that we have in our brooder right now are temporary. We will be changing these ones out. We don't like the way these ones operate. We have to fill them every single day and they're still able to roost on top of it. So please, no negative comments about me contradicting myself. These are temporary. Another key aspect that you're going to want to have in your brooder is actually a roosting point. Believe it or not, chicks need to learn how to roost. They don't just get into the coop and know all of a sudden. So give them a little bit of a head start by putting a tree branch or something for them to roost on in the brooder. Don't make it too tall. You only want it 1 to 2 inches off the ground. Just something for them to roost on that deters them from roosting on their water or food. Shavings. You want to make sure that you purchase some sort of bedding for your brooder. Bedding is important. You don't want them laying on bare concrete. It's cold. They'll get sick. So your bedding that you choose for your brooder is really important. You don't want your chickens laying on bare concrete. It's cold. They can get sick. You want them to be comfortable. So there's a lot of different options when it comes to your bedding. You can choose to do wood shavings like we have. I believe they're pine shavings. If you're going to be using something like sawdust, you want to make sure that the wood that you are creating into sawdust isn't chemically treated. You want it to be all natural. You can also even use paper, shredded pieces of paper. That works too. With the bedding and the walls, you want to make sure with the bedding and walls, they work together. You want to keep the chicks away from any breezes. That again will make them sick. So make sure that your side walls are solid, especially if your brooder's outside. You don't want any wind getting to them. The reason that we use the shelves for the lid, and I wanted to touch base on this really quick, is that it allows ventilation, and ventilation is really important. If you completely seal off the entire brooder and no air can get in, again, that's bad for your chickens. The reason that I had mentioned the size of this brooder, it's a 6 foot by 5 foot, is because square footage is very important. This brooder is a 6 foot by 5 foot. It's a 30 square foot brooder. And the reason that's important is because Each bird requires a certain amount of space in order to be happy and healthy. And the average is a minimum of half a square foot per newly hatched bird. So baby birds, half square foot. As they get older, 6 weeks old, it's roughly 0.75 square feet. And then at 10 weeks, it's 1 square foot per bird. We made our brooder 30 square feet. We have 10 birds. That gives them plenty of room. We know that our brooder can handle 15 chicks comfortably. And that's at the one square foot per chick. Moving on, the roosting poles I already touched base on. In order to have healthy chickens in your coop, you want to make sure that you don't release them to their coop until they're fully feathered. And by fully feathered, it's obvious these ones are not, they're fuzzy. They are not fully feathered. You want to make sure that your chickens have all of their feathers. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, or video requests, please comment below and we will do our best to get you the information that you need. And also, please subscribe to our page. The more people who subscribe, the more people we know we're helping. See you later, YouTube.